I found the pill bottle in the kitchen trash, my antidepressants, the ones I'd been taking for 2 years, dumped out among coffee grounds. Mom stood by the counter, scrolling through her phone. "Those are my prescribed medications," I said, keeping my voice level. "Oh, those?" She didn't look up. "Yeah," I threw them out. "Depression is fake news. Just another way for pharmaceutical companies to make money." My sister walked in and saw the bottle in my hand. "Are you seriously going to make a scene about this? They're prescribed by my psychiatrist." Mom finally looked at me. "You need to just be happy. Stop looking for excuses." My father came in from the living room. "What's going on?" "She's upset because I threw out her pills," Mom said. Dad shrugged. "Your mother has a point. When I was your age, we didn't have all these diagnoses." My brother appeared in the doorway. "The whole depression thing is getting old. We're all stressed. We don't need medication for it." They all started talking at once. "Depression isn't real. Just be happy. Stop being dramatic. You're too sensitive." I stood there holding the empty bottle. Said nothing. Just listened to them dismiss a condition that had nearly killed me 3 years ago. A condition I'd spent years learning to manage with therapy, medication, and enormous effort. When they finished, I set the bottle on the counter. "I need to go," I said quietly. "Don't be like that," Mom said. "We're trying to help you." I left without responding, drove to the pharmacy, paid out of pocket for an emergency refill, and went home to my apartment. That was 6 weeks ago. I hadn't spoken to any of them since. The depression had started in college. Not sadness, clinical depression. The kind where getting out of bed required enormous effort, where the thought of existing felt exhausting. I'd hidden it for 2 years. Then one night, standing on my balcony, I'd seriously considered whether dying would be easier. That scared me enough to call the campus counseling center. The diagnosis was major depressive disorder, chemical imbalance, genetic factors, a real medical condition requiring real treatment. I'd started medication and therapy. Slowly, over months, I'd gotten better, functional, able to work, maintain relationships, and find genuine joy. The medication made it possible. I told my family after 6 months of treatment, thinking they'd be relieved. Instead, everyone gets sad sometimes. Have you tried just exercising? Medication is a crutch. I'd learned not to discuss it with them, kept my mental health private, built a life that worked despite their lack of understanding, until Mom decided to throw my medication away, until they all gathered in that kitchen to tell me my diagnosed medical condition was fake news. I'd gone back to my apartment that day and made some decisions about boundaries, about family, about what I was willing to accept. 2 weeks after the medication incident, I received a call from my mother. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Hey, it's Mom. Listen, Dad needs surgery, his knee replacement, remember? The one he's been putting off? Insurance approved it, but we need to take out a medical loan for the deductible and copays. $25,000. Remember when we helped you with your student loans? Well, we need you to co-sign this medical loan. Your credit score is better than ours, and the bank needs a co-signer with good credit. Call me back." I deleted the voicemail without responding. She called again the next day, and the day after that. My sister sent texts. My brother left messages, all saying the same thing. "Dad needs surgery. We need you to co-sign the loan. It's just a formality. Your credit score helps us get better rates." I ignored all of them. What they didn't know was that I'd already co-signed something for them. 2 years ago, when Dad's business hit rough times, he asked me to co-sign a business loan, $50,000. I'd agreed because we were family. The loan was still active. I was still on the hook if Dad defaulted. I'd learned about co-signing the hard way afterward. As co-signer, I was equally responsible for the debt. If he missed payments, it affected my credit. So when requests for co-signing the medical loan started, I understood exactly what they were asking. Another $25,000 in debt attached to my name. I didn't respond to any of the calls or messages. 3 weeks after the first call, a letter arrived at my apartment from the bank addressed to me as co-signer on my father's business loan. Notice of payment default. This letter is to inform you that the primary borrower has missed 2 consecutive payments on the loan you co-signed. As co-signer, you are now responsible for making these payments. Total amount due, $8,400. Please remit payment within 30 days to avoid further credit consequences. I read the letter twice. Dad had missed 2 payments on the business loan, the one I co-signed, the one I was legally obligated to pay if he didn't. I called the bank. This is about the notice I received regarding loan account ending in 4782. The representative pulled up the account. Yes, Ms. Peterson. The primary borrower has missed August and September payments. As co-signer, the obligation transfers to you. What happens if I don't pay? It will negatively impact your credit score, late payment marks, potential collections activity. The bank may pursue legal action to recover the debt. And if I do pay, what are my options regarding the co-signature? You can request to be removed as co-signer, but the primary borrower would need to refinance the loan without you. Given that they're currently in default, refinancing would be difficult. Most lenders wouldn't approve a loan for someone who's missed multiple payments. What if the loan was paid off entirely? Would that end my obligation? Yes. If the full loan balance is paid, the loan closes and all obligations end. What's the current balance? $42,000. I thanked her and hung up. Sat in my apartment thinking about numbers, obligations, family. I could pay the $42,000. I had it. Years of careful saving, good investments, living below my means. I could write a check and be free of the co-signed loan. But that would mean bailing out my father, the same father who'd stood in that kitchen and dismissed my depression as fake news. Who'd supported my mother when she threw away my medication? Who'd missed loan payments while asking me to co-sign another loan? I made a decision. I didn't pay the defaulted amount. Instead, I sent a certified letter to my parents' address. I received notification that the business loan I co-signed has gone into default. I am informing you that I will not be making the payments on your behalf. You have 30 days to bring the loan current, or the default will proceed. Additionally, I will not be co-signing any additional loans for you, including the medical loan you've requested. These decisions are final. I sent the letter and waited. My phone exploded 2 days later, calls from everyone. Mom, Dad, my siblings, even my aunt. All variations of panic and anger. I didn't answer any of them. Finally, my father showed up at my apartment building. The doorman called up. Tell him I'm not available, I said. He says it's an emergency. About a loan. Not available. Dad apparently waited in the lobby for 3 hours. I watched from my window as he finally left. That evening, my mother sent an email. How can you do this to your father? He needs surgery. He's in pain. The business had some setbacks, but we're getting back on track. We need you to help us. Your family. This is what family does. I replied with one line. Family doesn't throw away prescribed medication and call mental illness fake news. The next morning, the certified mail arrived, the one they'd been waiting for. The medical loan papers requiring my signature as co-signer. I opened the envelope and read through the loan agreement. $25,000 for Dad's knee surgery, deductibles, copays, post-operative care. Interest rate of 8%. 5-year repayment term. My signature required as co-signer due to my credit score and income verification. There was a note paperclip to the front in Mom's handwriting. Jessica, please sign these and send them back. Dad's surgery is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. We can't afford it without the loan, and the bank won't approve it without your signature. I know we had a disagreement about your medication, but that's in the past. This is about your father's health. Please. I set the papers on my desk. Didn't sign them. 2 days later, the bank called. Miss Peterson, this is First National regarding the medical loan application for James Peterson. We're waiting for your co-signer signature. The loan has been conditionally approved pending your signature. Can you come into the branch to complete the paperwork? I've decided not to co-sign that loan, I said. Pause. I see. May I ask why? The application shows you as a willing co-signer. My circumstances have changed. I'm not willing to take on additional financial obligations at this time. Understood. I'll update the application status. Without a co-signer, the applicants don't qualify for the loan based on their credit and income. I understand. I should mention that Mr. Peterson has an existing loan with us that's currently in default. That's also impacting his ability to get approved. If that loan isn't brought current within 30 days, it will significantly damage both his credit and yours as co-signer. I'm aware. Thank you for the information. I hung up. Within an hour, my phone started ringing again. I let them all go to voicemail and listened to the messages later that night. Dad, you're killing me. Literally killing me. I need this surgery. The pain is unbearable. How can you do this? Mom, what happened to you? You used to be such a caring person. Now you're willing to let your father suffer because of some pills? This is insane. My brother. Everyone's talking about how selfish you're being. Dad needs surgery, and you're holding it hostage over some drama about medication. Grow up. My sister. I don't even know you anymore. Family helps family. But apparently that doesn't apply to you. I deleted all the messages. 3 days later, my mother called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered by accident. Finally, Jessica, we need to talk. There's nothing to discuss. Yes, there is. Your father's surgery, the loan. You're being unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable? You threw away my prescribed medication. You call my diagnosed medical condition fake news. You all stood there and mocked me for having depression, and now you want me to co-sign a $25,000 loan. That was a misunderstanding. I was trying to help you. I thought if you stopped depending on medication. You don't get to decide my treatment. You're not my doctor. You have no medical training, and you endangered my health because you decided you knew better. But this is different. This is about your father's surgery. It's not different. You want me to take financial responsibility for your medical care after you destroyed my medical treatment. You want me to trust you with my credit after you showed complete disregard for my health. So you're going to let him suffer? Let him stay in pain? He can have the surgery. You just need to pay for it yourselves. Get a different cosigner. Save the money. Figure it out the way I had to figure out how to pay for emergency medication after you threw mine away. We can't afford it without the loan. Then maybe you shouldn't have missed payments on the business loan I co-signed, the one that's currently in default, the one that's about to destroy my credit because Dad couldn't manage his finances. Silence. You know about that. The bank sent me a notice. As co-signer, I'm legally responsible. $8,000 in missed payments, $42,000 still owed, and you want me to co-sign another loan while you're defaulting on the first one? The business had some problems. We're fixing it. By asking me to take on more debt? No. Here's what's going to happen. You have 30 days to bring that business loan current. If you don't, I'm paying off the full balance myself and then suing you to recover it. Either way, I'm getting my name off that loan. You can't just. And I'm not co-signing anything else. Not the medical loan, not any future loans, nothing. You want to call depression fake news? Fine, but you don't get to then ask me to trust you with my financial future. But the surgery. Find another way. I'm done. I hung up. The next week, I paid off the business loan, all $42,000. Wiped the debt clean. Removed my name from the obligation. Sent my parents a letter informing them I'd be pursuing legal action to recover the funds. My attorney sent them a payment plan. They could repay me over 5 years at a reasonable interest rate, or I could take them to court. They chose the payment plan. Dad's surgery got postponed. Last I heard, they were saving money, trying to qualify for a different loan, possibly looking into payment plans with the hospital. I don't know the details. I don't ask. We don't speak. My cousin called once, trying to mediate. They're your parents. This is harsh. They threw away my medication and called my mental illness fake news, I said, while asking me to co-sign loans they can't afford to repay. That's harsh. I still take my antidepressants. Still see my therapist, still manage my depression with the tools that work, without my family's input or approval. Sometimes the cost of protecting your health is losing people who don't respect it. Sometimes understanding comes too late to matter. They understand now. They understand that the person they dismissed has the financial stability they need. They understand that actions have consequences. They understand that you can't throw someone's medicine away and then ask them to sign loan papers. But understanding doesn't undo what was done. And it doesn't obligate me to forgive it. Depression isn't fake news, but their concern for my well-being? That turned out to be fiction all along. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 30 years old, and for most of my life, I felt invisible. Growing up in a quiet suburban town, I was always the shadow in my own family. My younger brother, Ryan, was the golden child, adored and praised for even the smallest things. If he brought home an average report card or completed a minor task, it was celebrated as if he'd moved mountains. Me, I could ace tests, win competitions, or take care of the house without complaint, and it would be brushed off as what's expected. My parents were never cruel outright, but their favoritism was unmistakable. When something went wrong, a broken vase, a missed appointment, even Ryan's mistakes, I was the one who took the blame. Why didn't you keep an eye on him? Or Emily, you should have known better. Became so familiar they might as well have been carved into stone. The constant unfairness chipped away at me year after year, until I began to believe my worth was measured only by how much I could endure. By the time I turned 18, I knew I had to leave. I poured everything I had into earning scholarships and walked out the door without looking back. It wasn't easy, but I built a life that felt like mine. A fulfilling career, a cozy apartment, and a small circle of friends who really saw me, for who I was. For the first time, there was no blame. No guilt. Just a life where I finally mattered. Emily Carter's childhood was a masterclass in invisibility. In a family where love felt like a currency distributed unevenly, she quickly learned that her role was not to thrive but to endure. Her parents, Margaret and Charles, were unremarkable people to the outside world, yet within the walls of their suburban home, they carved Emily into someone who would spend decades trying to believe she mattered. Everything changed when Ryan was born. Emily was 5 when her younger brother arrived, and from the moment he entered the world, the balance of their family shifted. Ryan was the golden child, the apple of their parents' eyes. His crayon scribbles on the fridge earned him cheers and proud phone calls. A single goal in a soccer game was a cause for celebration. Meanwhile, Emily's straight A's, her spotless chore record, her quiet victories, they all disappeared into the void of parental indifference. "Why can't you be more like Ryan?" her mother would sigh whenever Emily misstepped, forgot the trash, raised her voice, existed a little too loudly. If Ryan broke a lamp or let the dog escape, it was Emily who bore the blame. "You're older, you should have known better." The words sunk deep, a refrain she carried into adolescence. Slowly, guilt and responsibility molded her into someone who never asked for more, convinced her worth lay in how much she could shoulder. By the time Emily was 18, resentment simmered in her chest, but guilt always choked it down. How could she blame Ryan when he was so charming, so easy to love? Blissfully unaware of the pedestal their parents had placed him on, he floated through life without ever needing to fight for his place. Emily, on the other hand, learned to survive in the shadows. When she left for college, she took little more than a suitcase and a scholarship, escaping the suffocating expectations of her childhood. Her parents didn't stop her, they seemed almost relieved. If they felt her absence, they never said so. Years passed, and Emily built herself piece by piece. Now at 30, she lived a life of quiet strength, a small, beautiful apartment she paid for herself, a steady job she was proud of, and friends who saw her worth in ways her family never had. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. For the first time, she felt free, free from blame, free from comparison, free from the weight of being invisible. Then the phone rang. The number flashed on the screen, familiar but foreign. For a moment, Emily considered ignoring it, but curiosity, or perhaps a lingering hope, made her pick up. "Emily?" Her mother's voice crackled through the line, thin and uncertain, like she was testing the name after all these years. "It's about your brother." Emily's stomach sank. Of course, it was about Ryan. It was always about Ryan. "What happened?" she asked, though a part of her already knew she wouldn't like the answer. "He's struggling," Margaret said carefully, as though choosing each word would soften the blow. "He lost his job, and he's behind on rent. They'll be evicted soon if someone doesn't step in." Someone. That someone, as always, was Emily. "We thought maybe you could help him out," her mother continued, a casual edge to her tone that didn't quite mask the expectation beneath. "You're doing well, aren't you? You've got a good job, a nice place. It's not like you can't afford it." Emily felt her grip tighten on the phone. Years of silence, years of being overlooked and dismissed, only to be contacted now because Ryan needed saving. Because she was the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who was always expected to clean up the mess. "Why can't he ask for help from you?" Emily's voice came out sharper than intended, but she didn't pull it back. "We've done all we can," Margaret replied with a sigh, a sound that dragged Emily back to her childhood in an instant. "He's your brother, Emily. Family helps family." Family. The word hit her like a stone to the chest. Where was that sense of family when she needed it? Where had their loyalty been when she walked out the door with nothing but a scholarship and desperation to escape? Emily closed her eyes, her pulse quickening as anger flared, an anger she had buried for too long. "You didn't help me when I needed it," she said, her voice low but steady. "Emily," Margaret's tone was softer now, almost pleading. "That was a long time ago. You've always been so strong. Ryan's not like you." The words twisted something inside her. Once again, her strength was used as a reason to bear more weight. Once again, Ryan's weakness was an excuse. For years, Emily had carried the blame, the guilt, the silence. But now, standing in her small apartment, she realized something she hadn't before. She had a choice. She didn't have to fall back into their pattern, didn't have to pick up the pieces they dropped at her feet. Emily? Her mother prodded gently, a familiar nudge toward compliance. Emily took a deep breath, her grip on the phone loosening. She thought of everything she had built, every quiet moment of peace she had earned. For once, she could put herself first. She had the power to say no. Emily sat on the edge of her couch, the phone still clutched in her hand long after the call had ended. Her mother's words echoed like a haunting refrain. He's your brother. Family helps family. Guilt and anger tangled within her, two opposing forces wrestling for control. Guilt was familiar, like an old sweater she'd worn threadbare. It whispered insidiously, reminding her of every time she'd been told she wasn't good enough. Every accusation of selfishness for simply wanting to be seen. He's struggling, Emily. Don't you care? But then there was the anger. A fire that had smoldered quietly for years now flared to life, searing away the lies she'd been taught to believe. Where had this concern been when she was a child? Where was this so-called family when she left at 18 with nothing but a suitcase and a desperate need to escape? Where was their compassion then? She shot to her feet, pacing the small living room as her thoughts churned. Images of Ryan swam in her mind, Ryan, the golden child, whose smile alone had been enough to earn their parents' praise. Ryan, who had always been cushioned, protected, adored. Meanwhile, Emily had been the scapegoat, the responsible one, the afterthought, and now, nothing had changed. Ryan was in trouble, and it was her they expected to save him. You're doing well, her mother had said, as though success was a crime for which Emily now had to pay. Her stomach twisted. A part of her still longed for their approval, a dangerous ache she thought she'd buried long ago. If she refused, would they finally abandon her for good? Would they call her selfish, ungrateful, a bad sister? But another voice, stronger now, rose up inside her, the voice of the woman who had clawed her way to independence. She had worked for this life. She had endured sleepless nights, draining jobs, and years of solitude to carve out a space where she could finally breathe. And now, when she had found peace, they wanted to pull her back into the chaos. Emily sank back onto the couch, her hands trembling. She could see the manipulation for what it was, clear as day, yet its familiarity still threatened to swallow her whole. He's your brother. You're doing fine, Emily. Family helps family. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. A new text lit up the screen. Margaret, Ryan is desperate, Emily. He doesn't deserve this. Please do the right thing. The words hit like a punch to the gut. He doesn't deserve this. Did she deserve the years of blame? The years of neglect? Did she deserve to be invisible until they needed something from her? Tears stung her eyes as a surge of clarity rose through the anger. This was not her burden to carry, not anymore. Emily wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater, her breath steadying. She picked up her phone, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The years of silence, guilt, and disappointment weighed heavy on her shoulders. But this time, she wouldn't let it crush her. She typed slowly, each word deliberate. Emily, I'm sorry Ryan is struggling, but I can't help him. I've worked hard to build a life for myself, and I won't jeopardize that. I hope he finds a way to get back on his feet, but this is not my responsibility. Her thumb lingered over the send button, but only for a moment. With a deep breath, she pressed it. The response was instant. Margaret, I can't believe you would turn your back on your family like this. Emily stared at the screen, but the words no longer had power over her. She placed the phone face down on the coffee table, the silence in the room feeling oddly soothing. The guilt was still there, lingering in the shadows, but it was quieter now, smaller, easier to ignore. Standing, Emily walked to the window and gazed up at the city below. The small apartment she had fought for, the job she loved, the life she had carved out for herself. It was all hers. Every inch of it was hard-won, and no one had the right to take it from her. A small, proud smile curled her lips as she grabbed her coat and keys. She felt lighter than she had in years, as though the chains of her past had finally fallen away. The phone buzzed again behind her, but she didn't turn back. Margaret's disappointment, Ryan's anger, her father's silence. They could all live in the past where they belonged. Outside, the world stretched out before her, bright and full of possibilities she could finally see. Emily sat at her kitchen table, her phone buzzing endlessly with calls and messages. Each vibration felt like a demand, another tug at the chain she had spent years breaking. Her mother's guilt-laden texts, her father's silence, and even Ryan's half-hearted apology. I didn't ask them to call you, but I really need this, M. All wove together into the same suffocating web, trying to ensnare her again. But Emily was done being trapped. She stared at the phone, her heart pounding. The old guilt whispered its familiar refrain, family helps family. It accused her of being selfish, cruel, ungrateful. But beneath it, something stronger stirred, anger. Anger at the years of blame, invisibility, and being treated like a convenient afterthought. Anger at a family that only remembered her when they needed saving. Without letting herself hesitate, she picked up the phone and dialed. Margaret answered on the second ring, her voice sharp with impatience. Emily. Finally, Ryan. Stop. Emily's tone was calm, but the steel in it was unmistakable. I need to say something, and I need you to listen. There was a pause. What's gotten into you? Margaret asked, already defensive. Emily took a steadying breath. I'm not helping Ryan. I'm not giving him money. I've worked too hard to build a life I'm proud of, and I won't let you, or anyone else, make me feel guilty for protecting it. Emily, he's your brother. No, Emily interrupted, her voice unwavering. It's not my responsibility. None of this is. I spent my entire childhood being blamed for things that weren't my fault, while Ryan was handed everything. Now, when he's facing the consequences of his own choices, you expect me to fix it. I won't. Margaret sputtered on the other end, clearly caught off guard. We're family, Emily. You don't turn your back on family. Emily felt the words hit, but they didn't hurt like they once would have. You turned your back on me a long time ago, she replied, her voice quiet but resolute. You ignored me, you blamed me, you made me feel invisible. And now, when it's convenient, you want me to swoop in and save the day. I'm done being that person for you. The silence on the other end was deafening. Margaret's voice finally returned, laced with bitterness. I can't believe how selfish you've become. Emily didn't flinch. What once would have shattered her now felt weightless. If standing up for myself makes me selfish, then so be it. I deserve better than this. She didn't wait for her mother's response. Goodbye, Mom, she said softly, and hung up. For a long moment, Emily sat still, the phone silent in her hands. The old guilt tried to claw its way back, but it was quieter now, like a shadow retreating in the light. Pride thumped steady in her chest, strong, undeniable. She set the phone down and looked around her apartment. It was small but beautiful, the result of years of hard work, sacrifice, and courage. It was hers. For so long, she had feared that standing up for herself would mean losing her family forever. But now she understood. She had lost them a long time ago. What she gained today, though, was something far more valuable herself. Emily stood and walked to the window, where sunlight streamed in, warming her face. Outside, the world stretched wide and bright, broomy with possibilities she could finally see. She smiled, her shoulders light, her breath easy. The days that followed felt lighter, as though Emily had shrugged off a heavy coat she didn't realize she'd been carrying for years. At first, the silence from her family was deafening, like an echo in an empty room, but soon it became liberating. No more guilt-laden calls. No more expectations to shoulder burdens that weren't hers to bear. For the first time, her life felt like it belonged to her. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Emily sat in her favorite cafe, tucked into a cozy corner table with her closest friends, people who loved her not for what she could do for them, but simply for who she was. The cafe buzzed with laughter and soft conversation, the air rich with the scent of fresh coffee and warm pastries. Sophia, her oldest friend, leaned forward with a teasing grin. You look different lately, Hem. Happier. Like you're glowing. Emily smiled over her latte, the warmth of the cup grounding her. Maybe I finally am. Mike, Sophia's boyfriend and a steady cheerleader in Emily's life, chimed in with a nod. Whatever it is, keep doing it. You've been killing it at work, and you actually seem like you're enjoying yourself these days. I am, Emily admitted softly, the truth settling in her chest like a gentle heartbeat. She was. She was enjoying herself. She had drawn a line in the sand, and instead of the world collapsing, it had opened up, brighter and lighter than before. That evening, Emily walked home through the park, the golden light of sunset stretching across the grass like a warm embrace. Families dotted the landscape, kids running, parents laughing, dogs chasing frisbees, and for the first time, Emily felt like a quiet observer in a world that didn't demand anything from her. She paused beside a small pond, watching the ripples dance across the water's surface. Her reflection wavered, but she didn't mind. It was a reflection she could finally recognize, one that spoke of growth, resilience, and freedom. She thought of the little girl she used to be, the one who tried so hard to be seen, to be good enough, to earn love that should have been unconditional. That girl had been brave, even when no one noticed. Emily closed her eyes and thanked her younger self for holding on, for keeping her heart alive through all the silence. When she reached her apartment, the space welcomed her like an old friend. Soft music played from the speakers. Books were stacked on the coffee table. A half-finished painting waited on the easel by the window, and the last orange streaks of sunlight filtered through the glass. Kicking off her shoes, Emily grabbed a paintbrush and stepped in front of the canvas. The colors poured freely onto the surface, strokes bold and alive, as if they, too, were celebrating this life she had fought for. The sun finally dipped below the horizon as Emily stepped back to admire her work. The painting wasn't perfect, but it was hers, just like her life. A life shaped by struggle, forged in resilience, and made beautiful by her choice to keep going. She didn't need her family's approval. She didn't need to fix their problems to feel worthy. She didn't need anyone to tell her she was enough. Because she was. Emily smiled, a quiet and knowing smile. For the first time in her life, she was free, truly free. And that, she realized, was more than enough. My name is Linda, and I live in California. I was only 10 years old when my mom died in a car accident. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. The police officers standing on our doorstep, their faces grim, my grandmother's wail echoing through the house. My world shattered in an instant, and before I could even understand what had happened, I was sent to live with my Aunt Deborah, and my grandmother. At first, I thought I'd be safe. My aunt was family, and family is supposed to take care of you, right? But that wasn't how it worked in her house. From the very beginning, Aunt Deborah made it clear that I wasn't there as part of the family. I was there as an obligation. She had a daughter, Nicole, who was my age but couldn't have been more different from me. Nicole was the golden child, the perfect little princess who could do no wrong. Aunt Deborah would spend hours praising her. Nicole is so talented, she'd say, or, look at how well Nicole does in school. Meanwhile, I was treated like I didn't even belong. But it wasn't just the words. It was the way she made me work. While Nicole got to spend her afternoons at dance class or hanging out with her friends, I was stuck at home doing chores. Cleaning the kitchen, folding laundry, scrubbing the bathroom floors, anything Aunt Deborah didn't want to do herself. She used to call it helping out, but it wasn't helping. It was servitude. I was 10 years old, and she had me cooking dinner for the entire household while Nicole sat on the couch watching TV. If I ever complained, she'd snap, "You should be grateful we took you in at all." The worst part was how much she'd go out of her way to remind me of my place. If Nicole got a new dress, I got a hand-me-down. If Nicole brought home a B on her report card, Aunt Deborah would throw her a party. But when I brought home straight A's, all I got was, "Well, you should be focusing on the housework instead of school." And yet through all of that, it was my grandmother who gave me strength. She didn't say much, mostly because she was afraid of Aunt Deborah. But when we were alone, she'd hug me and whisper, "You're going to do great things one day, Linda. Don't let her break you." I didn't let her break me, but those years left their mark. I learned how to swallow my feelings, how to keep my head down, and just get through the day. I told myself that one day, I'd leave that house and never look back. One day, I'd have a life that was mine. And that's exactly what I did. But of course, Aunt Deborah wasn't done with me yet. It's been years since I left that house, and I finally feel like I'm living the life I always dreamed of. My name is on the lease of a cozy apartment in Los Angeles. I work at a marketing firm, and for the first time, I feel free. No one tells me what to do. No one dismisses me or makes me feel small. I've built a life that's mine, surrounded by people who actually care about me. But life has a funny way of dredging up the past when you least expect it. It happened on a Friday evening after work. I had just parked my car in the lot outside my apartment and was digging through my bag for my keys when I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. Linda. I froze. For a moment, I thought I was imagining it. But when I turned, there she was, Aunt Deborah, standing by the edge of the lot like some ghost from my past. She looked different. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes wrinkled, and there was a desperation in her eyes I had never seen before. Linda, wait, she called out, hurrying toward me. I wanted to get back in my car and drive away. I wanted to tell her to leave me alone. But I didn't. Instead, I stood there, clutching my bag, as she came closer. Hi, Aunt Deborah, I said, my voice colder than I intended. What are you doing here? She sighed heavily, like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. I need your help. I raised an eyebrow. Help? It's your grandmother, she started, but then stopped herself, her face crumpling. She kicked me out. Me, her own daughter. She let me go, but not Nickel. And now Nickel and her husband won't even take my calls. I have nowhere to go, Linda. I don't have anyone else to turn to. My heart twisted at her words, but not in the way she probably expected. For years, I had dreamed of the day she'd get a taste of her own medicine. And here it was, right in front of me, but it didn't feel as good as I thought it would. What do you want from me? I asked, keeping my voice steady. I just need a little help to get back on my feet, she said quickly. Maybe some money for rent? Or groceries? Just until I can figure things out. I stared at her, my mind racing. This was the woman who made my childhood hell. The woman who treated me like a maid while praising her precious Nickel. And now she was standing in front of me, asking for my help because her golden child had turned her back on her. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I stood there, gripping my bag so tightly my knuckles turned white. My aunt's words hung in the air like smoke, choking me. You're the only one who can help me, Linda, she said, her voice trembling, though I could hear the old familiar edge creeping back in. I know things weren't perfect when you were growing up, but I was doing the best I could. You wouldn't understand what it's like to be a single mother, trying to keep things together. Her words hit me like a slap. The best she could. Was she seriously standing here, rewriting history, pretending that her cruelty was some kind of noble struggle? My chest tightened with anger. But then, as much as I hated it, guilt wormed its way in. This was still the woman who gave me a roof over my head after my mom died. She fed me, she clothed me, albeit begrudgingly. Could I really just turn her away? And yet, I couldn't ignore the other side of me, the part screaming, don't fall for it. Don't let her guilt you. I thought of all the nights I cried myself to sleep in her house, wondering why I wasn't enough to be loved. I thought of all the times she belittled me, made me feel like I was nothing. And now she was standing here, trying to manipulate me into helping her, just like she always did. I really have nowhere else to go, she continued, her voice softer now. Nickel doesn't even answer my calls anymore. Can you believe that? After everything I did for her, she just turned her back on me. But not you, Linda. You were always the kind one, the good one. I know you wouldn't leave me like this. Her words made my stomach churn. Kind. Good. Was this her strategy now? To butter me up, make me feel like I owed her something. I felt torn in two. Part of me wanted to give in, to hand her a few bills just to get her out of my sight and avoid the gnawing guilt that would come later. But the other part of me, the part that had clawed its way out of her house and built a life from the ground up, wanted to scream. How dare you? How dare you show up here and expect anything from me after the way you treated me? You know, she said, her voice growing sharper, you're doing well for yourself now. I can see that. You've got a nice car, a good job, a place of your own. It wouldn't kill you to help family, Linda? That's what family is for, right? I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised even me. Family? I said, my voice trembling with anger. You're going to stand here and talk to me about family? You treated me like a servant, Aunt Deborah. You made my childhood miserable while you spoiled Nickel rotten. And now, because she's abandoned you, you want to come to me and ask for help. She flinched, but quickly recovered, her face hardening. I did what I had to do. You think life was easy for me? You think I had the luxury of coddling you? I gave you everything I could, Linda. If you can't see that, then maybe you're the selfish one. Her words stung, but not in the way she probably hoped. They stung because they reminded me of every time I let her walk all over me, every time I believed her when she said I owed her something. But not this time. This time, I wasn't the scared little girl she could manipulate. For a moment, I didn't say anything. I just stood there, staring at her. My aunt, this woman who had shaped so much of my pain, was trying to rewrite the story right in front of me. Her words, her tone, her entitlement, it was all so familiar. And yet, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the helpless girl who used to cry herself to sleep anymore. Selfish, I repeated, finally breaking the silence. The word felt bitter on my tongue, but instead of anger, a laugh bubbled up in my throat. I couldn't stop it. I laughed. It wasn't loud or joyous. It was the kind of laugh that escapes when the absurdity of a situation is too much to take seriously anymore. She looked startled. What's so funny? I shook my head, still laughing. You, I said, my voice sharper now. You're unbelievable. Do you even hear yourself? You're standing here, asking me for help, calling me selfish, and acting like I owe you something. But do you know what I owe you, Aunt Deborah? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Her face twisted in disbelief, her lips parting like she was about to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. You treated me like garbage for years. You made me feel like I wasn't part of the family, like I was just some burden you were forced to tolerate. Do you remember that? Or have you conveniently erased all of that from your memory? Do you remember the chores, the screaming, the way you never once told me I did a good job, no matter how hard I tried? Because I do. I remember everything. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, but no words came out. For the first time, she seemed unsure of what to say. I stepped closer, the weight of my words building. You want to talk about family? Fine, let's talk about family. Where was family when I was 10 years old, crying myself to sleep because my mother was gone and you made it clear I was nothing more than a nuisance in your house? Where was family when you gave Nicole everything, love, praise, encouragement, and left me with scraps? That's not fair, she finally spat, her voice trembling with anger. You don't understand what I went through. I did my best. Your best? I interrupted, my voice rising. No, Aunt Deborah, your best was cruelty. Your best was using a grieving child as free labor and then blaming her for not being grateful enough. And now, after everything, you have the nerve to come here and ask for help. She crossed her arms, trying to regain some control. You think you're so much better than me now, don't you? With your fancy job and your perfect little life. Well, let me tell you something, Linda. Life has a way of humbling people. One day, you'll meet someone and no one will be there for you. You'll see. That's when I felt it, a deep, unwavering calm. The guilt that had been gnawing at me moments before disappeared, replaced by clarity. I wasn't that scared, helpless girl anymore. I didn't owe her anything, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. No, I said firmly, meeting her glare. I won't see, because I've built a life surrounded by people who actually care about me. People who love me, who lift me up, and who don't treat me like I'm disposable. And you know what? That's what family is supposed to be. You taught me exactly what I don't want in my life. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm done. I'm done letting you guilt me, done letting you twist things to make yourself look like the victim. You want to call me selfish. Fine. I'll be selfish if it means protecting myself from people like you. Her face was red now, a mix of rage and disbelief. I can't believe this. After everything I did for you, this is how you treat me. You're heartless. Selfish. Just like Nicole. The mention of her daughter, her golden child, almost made me laugh again. Nicole, the one she worshipped, had abandoned her too. The irony was almost too much to handle. I shook my head, a small smile tugging at my lips. You know what, Aunt Deborah? You're right, I am selfish. I'm selfish enough to put myself first for once, and it feels pretty damn good. She stared at me, stunned into silence, as if she couldn't believe I finally stood up to her. I turned and started walking toward the apartment door. My heart was pounding, adrenaline coursing through my veins, but with every step, I felt lighter. Linda, she shouted after me. You'll regret this. One day, you'll regret this. I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. Her voice faded as I unlocked the door to my building and stepped inside, the weight of her presence finally lifting off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. When I walked into my apartment that night, I stood there in the quiet for a moment, letting it all sink in. The confrontation with my aunt had stirred so many emotions: anger, sadness, even a bit of relief. But above all, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: pride. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself. I had said no, and I meant it. I wasn't the helpless girl she could push around anymore. I wasn't the kid who spent her nights scrubbing floors while her cousin got praised for just existing. I wasn't a victim. I was free. Emily Dawson was 20 years old now, a woman stepping into adulthood with a quiet determination forged in the fires of her turbulent childhood. Her story, though riddled with hardship, was one of resilience and self-discovery. Born to a loving mother who was taken far too soon by cancer when Emily was just 10 years old, she found herself thrust into a family dynamic that was anything but nurturing. After her mother's passing, Emily's life took a sharp turn. Her father, Robert, remarried within a year, introducing a stepmother into their lives. With the new marriage came a new addition to the family: John, her younger stepbrother, who quickly became the center of attention. Robert, once a man who doted on his daughter, became a shadow of his former self, cold, dismissive, and utterly captivated by his new wife and son. Emily quickly fell into the role of an unwanted outsider in her own home. While her stepmother lavished affection and praise on John, Emily was relegated to the background, her presence acknowledged only when there was work to be done. By the time she was 11, Emily was essentially the family maid. She cleaned the house, cooked meals, and took care of John, all while struggling to keep up with her schoolwork. Her father's indifference cut the deepest. Once a source of comfort, he now barely looked at her. Every small achievement Emily managed to earn was ignored, while John was celebrated for the smallest accomplishment. When John brought home a B on a test, the family went out for ice cream. When Emily scored straight A's, no one even noticed. The unfairness of it all could have embittered Emily, but instead it planted a seed of determination. By the time she turned 16, she had resolved to escape. She studied relentlessly, worked part-time jobs to save money, and dreamed of the day she could finally leave. At 18, she secured a scholarship to a university 3 states away and left her childhood home without a single glance back. For the first time in her life, Emily was free. College was her sanctuary, a place where she could rebuild herself and learn who she truly was. She discovered a love for photography, turning her passion into a successful freelance career. By 20, Emily had built a life filled with supportive friends, creative work, and a quiet contentment that she had never known growing up. It was a bright Saturday morning when her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Emily hesitated before answering, her heart sinking as a familiar voice filled the line. It was her father. "Emily," he began, his tone uncharacteristically soft, almost pleading. "It's been a long time." Emily's chest tightened. She hadn't spoken to her family in 2 years, a deliberate choice to protect the life she had painstakingly built. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within her. There was a pause, then a heavy sigh. "We need your help," Robert admitted. "Your brother, he left us. Took all his things and just walked out. We're in a tough spot now. We've lost the house, and we don't even have enough for rent. I thought maybe you could help us out, just until we get back on our feet." Emily's mind raced. The audacity of the request stunned her. This was the same family that had treated her as nothing more than a servant, the same father who had turned a blind eye to her struggles. Now, they needed her. "Let me get this straight," Emily said, her voice icy. "You ignored me for years, treated me like I didn't matter. And now that John isn't around to worship, you expect me to step in and save you." Her father stammered, trying to explain, but Emily cut him off. "No," she said firmly. "I'm not your safety net. You made your choices, and now you can deal with the consequences." She hung up, her hands trembling with a mix of anger and liberation. For years, she had carried the weight of her family's neglect, but now she realized she didn't have to. That evening, Emily met up with her friends, a close-knit group who had become her chosen family. Over laughter and shared stories, she felt the last remnants of guilt fade away. She had made the right decision, choosing herself for the first time. As the weeks passed, Emily found herself more at peace than ever. She threw herself into her photography, capturing the beauty of the world around her. One day, while snapping photos at a park, she came across a young girl who reminded her of herself. a quiet, thoughtful child with a spark of resilience in her eyes. Emily knelt beside the girl and showed her how to use the camera. The girl's face lit up, and for a moment, Emily saw a reflection of her own journey, from a silenced, overlooked child to a woman who had reclaimed her voice and her life. Emily had barely set the phone down when the weight of what just happened hit her. She leaned against the kitchen counter, staring blankly at the floor, her breath shallow. Her father's voice, pleading and full of false regret, echoed in her mind. "We need your help, Emily." Those words were like a slap across her face, sharp and unforgiving. How could they? After all these years, after everything they'd put her through, how could they now come crawling back, asking her for anything? A wave of anger surged within her, and she slammed her fist against the countertop. How dare they think she'd just step in and save them? How dare they even think she owed them anything after the way they treated her, the way they had abandoned her the second John was born? But beneath the anger, there was something else, a soft, nagging voice that tugged at her chest, the same voice that had haunted her since childhood, the voice of guilt. What if they really needed her? What if they were suffering? What if her father, so distant and harsh, had finally realized how badly he'd messed up? The thoughts swirled together in a confusing storm. She felt torn in two, her heart aching with old wounds, and yet, at the same time, a part of her couldn't escape the instinct to help. The same instinct that had driven her as a child to try and earn her father's love. The same instinct that had made her quietly endure years of being treated as nothing more than the family servant. The phone call had stirred up memories she had long buried, memories of long nights spent cleaning the house while John played video games, of being called lazy when she didn't finish her chores fast enough, of sitting at the dinner table with her family, her stomach hollow from hunger, while John ate to his heart's content, praised for his every move. Emily had always believed that if only she tried harder, if only she worked harder, her father would notice her. But he never did. Instead, he showered John with affection, praised him for his smallest accomplishments, while Emily was overlooked, left in the shadows. She had been invisible, except when it came to taking on the endless work no one else would do. Now, with the years between her and that life, she was supposed to forgive them, to throw aside all that anger, all that pain, and come to their rescue. Her phone buzzed again. It was her father, calling again. Emily stared at the screen, a deep hesitation flooding her veins. Her fingers hovered over the call button, and for a moment she almost picked it up, almost gave in. But then she remembered the look on her father's face the last time she saw him, cold, distant, like she was nothing more than a background character in his life. She remembered how he had always been too absorbed in his own problems to notice hers. He hadn't once thought about how it felt to be neglected in favor of John. He hadn't once considered how it felt to be constantly overlooked and underappreciated. Another buzz from her phone broke her thoughts. This time it was a text message from her father. "Please, Emily, we're desperate. I know things haven't been perfect between us, but we're family. We can't do this without you." The words hit her like a physical blow. Desperate. Family. The very same words her father had used so many times, twisting them into guilt-laden pleas whenever he wanted something. She could almost hear his voice behind the text, the same manipulative tone that had always convinced her to keep quiet, to keep giving. And that's when it clicked. He didn't care about her. He cared about what she could provide for him. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to keep the tears at bay. A lump formed in her throat as the guilt started to creep in once more. Wasn't it her responsibility to help them? Wasn't it what good daughters did? Didn't she owe them some form of compassion, despite everything? But the truth stung. Emily wasn't a child anymore. She had her own life now, her own path. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and she wasn't about to let the toxic remnants of her family drag her back into that dark place. She had built a life for herself, and it wasn't up to her to fix the mess they had made. The emotions warring inside her became almost unbearable. She wanted to help. She wanted to be the kind of person who forgave easily, who understood that people made mistakes. She wanted to believe her father could change, but she knew, deep down, that if she gave in now, she would only be repeating the same cycle of neglect, the same cycle of being taken for granted. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from John. "Hey, Em. I know Dad's been asking you for money. He's just freaking out because of everything that happened with me. But I think he needs you. We both do. Please just think about it. I know things were rough before, but we're family, right? Family. The word reverberated in her mind, an echo of all the broken promises and empty words she had heard throughout her childhood. Emily stared at the message for a long moment, her heart hammering in her chest. She felt a mixture of anger at John, who had always been the golden child, who had never lifted a finger to help, and sadness, knowing that despite everything he was still under the influence of their father. She let out a long breath and locked her phone, pushing it away from her. The guilt felt overwhelming, suffocating. But she couldn't let it control her. Not anymore. She stood up, walking to the window, looking out at the world beyond. Her life was different now. She wasn't that helpless girl anymore. She had built something meaningful, something real. And as she let her family back in, it would tear that apart. She had to let go. She had to refuse. For her own peace. For her own freedom. The anger, the guilt, they didn't belong to her anymore. They were their burdens to carry. She had carried them for too long. It was time for her to live her life on her own terms. With a steady hand, she sent one final text to her father. I'm sorry, but I can't help. I've moved on from that life, and I won't be dragged back into it. She hit send, then sat down on the couch, her body heavy but relieved. There was no turning back now. The decision was made. She had chosen herself. And for the first time in her life, Emily felt the weight of her family's manipulation finally lift. The phone call came later that evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft golden hue across her apartment. Emily stared at the screen. It was her father again. This time, there was a sense of finality in her chest. She wasn't going to keep going through the same cycle of guilt and anger anymore. Taking a deep breath, Emily picked up the phone. Emily, her father's voice was softer this time, almost pleading. I know you're upset, I really do. But we're in a tough spot here. Your brother's gone, and we, your stepmother and I, we don't have anyone else to turn to. The weight of his words hung in the air. Emily's mind screamed at her to hang up, but she stayed still, her finger resting over the end call button. She wasn't going to let him drag her back into the past. Not this time. Dad, Emily began, her voice steady and calm. You know, I've been thinking about this all day. You've called me all these years the way you always do, expecting me to come to the rescue. And for a moment, I almost considered it. Almost. There was silence on the other end. She could hear the slight quiver in her father's breath, a hint of desperation. Please, Em, I'm asking for your help. Just this once. No, Emily cut him off, the word as final as a door slamming shut. I won't do it, Dad. I won't help. Not this time. Don't you care about your family? His voice cracked, but Emily wasn't fooled. She wasn't going to let him manipulate her with guilt anymore. The emotional strings he had pulled for so long were finally snapped. I used to care, Emily replied, her voice rising with the truth she had buried deep inside for years. But what I've realized is that I've been carrying the weight of this family for too long. It's always been about what you need, what John needs. Never once did you stop to ask what I needed. There was a pause, and for a brief second, Emily wondered if her father was finally understanding. But then he spoke again, trying to appeal to her, trying to pull her back into the role he cast her in so many years ago. You're my daughter, Emily. I didn't always know how to show it, but I need you now. We all need you. No, you don't need me, Emily said, each word more forceful than the last. What you need is someone to take care of you, someone to clean up your messes, but that's not me anymore. I've spent my whole life doing that, trying to earn your approval, trying to fix everything. But I'm done. Her father's voice was now laced with frustration. So what? You're just going to turn your back on us? You'll leave us stranded. Emily's heart beat hard against her ribs, but she stood her ground, a newfound strength filling her chest. You had your chance. You had plenty of chances, and every time I tried, you pushed me aside. You treated me like I didn't matter, like I wasn't even your daughter. You chose John over me. You chose your new family over me. And now that it's not going well for you, you want me to bail you out. Her voice broke, but she forced herself to continue. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe anyone anything. I've built a life for myself, one where I'm valued, one where I matter. I've worked so hard to get here, to heal from everything you and Mom and John put me through, and I'm not going to let you drag me back into that toxic pit. There was a long silence. For the first time in her life, Emily felt a strange sense of peace. She wasn't begging for his approval. She wasn't waiting for him to notice her. She was standing on her own 2 feet, and she was proud of it. Finally, her father spoke again, his voice now empty and hollow. "So that's it? You're just going to walk away from your family?" Emily let out a soft, almost laugh. It wasn't a laugh of joy, but a laugh of bitter realization. "Yeah, Dad. That's it. I'm walking away. I'm walking away from the guilt, from the manipulation, from everything that's kept me tied down to you and your mess. I'm free now. I finally feel free." She took a long breath, feeling the weight of her decision settle into her bones. This was it. There was no turning back. "I'm sorry, Dad, but I can't help you. I'm not your safety net anymore." She paused, the finality of her words sinking in. "You need to figure it out on your own." With that, she hung up the phone. For a moment, Emily just stood there, staring at the screen. The weight of the decision still hung in the air, but it felt lighter, so much lighter. It wasn't that she didn't care. She did, in some small, quiet way. But she had to protect herself. She had to protect the life she had built. For years, she had been the one to give, to sacrifice, to bend under the weight of everyone else's needs. But not anymore. She wasn't going to be the one to fix their broken pieces while ignoring her own. And as Emily looked out the window, watching the last light of the day fade into night, a soft smile touched her lips. She had done it. She had stood up for herself. She had finally set the boundaries she had so desperately needed.